Hi everyone, you're watching Me Students, and today we're going to talk about research programs, specifically Pioneer and CCIR. I did the Pioneer research program this year, spring to summer term, and it was in the field of architecture, specifically urbanism.
I did the CCIR Future Scholar program also throughout this summer, and it was in the field of law, justice, and violence.
What applied to these programs, and what does the process look like?
For CCIR, there's two different selection processes. One is for the Future Scholar program, which I did, which is in a group of around 5 students with a teacher. For the Future Scholar program, there's no eligibility criteria. However, during the application process, you do write a motivational letter on why you want to go to this course specifically, and kind of your academic background in order to prove that you can survive in a way through this research process. You have to submit your grades, so your transcript. At the end of this, I had an interview with a professor who asked me certain questions about the topic that I applied for, what research background I already have, so whether I know something or if I'm completely new to this. And after the interview, I had to wait around 2 weeks to get a final result on whether I'm accepted or not. CCIR for the Future Scholar program also immediately tries to apply any scholarships that you're eligible for into your application, which means you do not need to fill out an individual application for any discount that you could potentially have, which means that they already look at your transcript and your interview as a possibility to make sure that you can actually receive this funding.
So for the Pioneer Research Program, you were still able to choose between two types of programs. However, it wasn't anything about like the amount of people in the program. It was more like what time of the year you want to join the program. I joined the spring through summer. However, you have a summer term as well, which is way shorter and more condensed. Everyone's eligible to apply. Like, you don't need anything specific except for good grades. For the first round of applications, all you need is a recommendation letter, your transcripts, and you also need to answer 3 questions that they give you. And after you get accepted into the first one, you go to the second round, which is the interview. There's 2 parts. First part is you speak with the interviewer. Second part is that you write an essay, so I can see your writing skills.
So what does the research process look like for both of these programs? So in CCIR, you start by selecting a specific class that you want to attend, which happens usually, I think, over 6 to 8 weeks. However, my set of students voted on condensing this structure into block classes. We'd have 2.5 to 3 hours of instruction per scheduled meeting. Every week, we'd have one meeting with the actual teacher, and we'd learn things relating to the law, justice, and violence portion of the program. Also have a session with a teaching assistant who basically had presentations prepared on how the research process is supposed to look like, how to find credible sources, where we could, in the future, publish our work, and other parts about writing an analysis or a specific argument, and how to use statistics and data to actually back this up without it being labeled for plagiarism. Towards the end, after we had finished the classes and had started kind of brainstorming the research question, we received feedback on potential research questions and our thesis statements, and then we were guided through working on each part of the paragraphs and the writing structure. And we received every week or 2 a specific deadline for some portion of our draft research paper in order for them to write detailed comments, which we received again bi-weekly. And at the end, we presented our final findings and the final format to our class via presentation. And before the end of the program, we also received the final set of commentary on what our final draft was supposed to be. And we got assistance on finding potential journals that we can in the future publish our work in. So workload was also not that big. However, after most of our classes, we did have short assignments, and they were all relating to the field of the class we chose. They weren't difficult, but there were some short tasks that we had to do.
Pioneer, they divide everyone from one field into a few cohorts. In my cohort, we were 8 people, 9 people, I don't remember really well. And first 5 meetings that we had were 2 hours long, and they were with the whole cohort and our professor. After the first meeting with the cohort, you had 5 additional meetings just with the professor. In the meetings with the cohort, you talked about, in my case, we talked about architecture history, art history, and then in the individual meetings, we will talk about my essay, what I'm going to write about, my research paper. And she would give me feedback every time. We would have a deadline after each individual meeting to write, for example, 1 paragraph, 2 pages, whatever, depends on the professor. The workload wasn't a lot for the meetings with the cohort. The only thing we had to do is listen, take notes, and have 3 questions written by the end of every meeting, which in the end they were all compiled into one document and submitted to the teacher. Regarding the readings were really long. If you're a person like me who doesn't like reading, they were really long. How independent is the research in the program? In my cohort, it was pretty independent. We chose the topics ourselves. We did basically everything ourselves. The professor would only give us feedback.
In the case of CCIR, it was also very independent because we had to choose our own research question and then we worked on it on our own time. We didn't work on it during class. All we did was receive feedback for it. So how challenging is the program and how much time should students expect to commit? So in the case of CCIR, because we condensed it, every week you would have around, I'd say, 2 to 5 hours worth of classes. So it wasn't like too much time for a research program. However, it was by the choice of the students. Usually it would be twice as less, but for twice as long. Other than this, for the length of the classes, it wasn't that difficult to maintain like focus and attention because we did have frequent breaks, which was decided on again by the student and the specific teacher. Outside of the classes, I wouldn't say that it was very difficult, but I have had a lot of experience with research. We both have. So I feel like the research part wasn't very demanding for me. However, it did take, all in all, I would say about 20 to 30 hours maybe to research and write and produce the final paper, with the feedback being around 5 to 10 hours from that because it was much easier to write the initial paper, and then there was a lot of feedback that I got on how to change it, the formatting, the structure, and certain things that I wasn't maybe used to because of the different ways they teach it in school and inside a specific program for this aspect. However, for someone who does not do research frequently and it is not part of their school program, I would say that it is much harder and it would take much more of their time. I know that some students in my cohort and in my class said that they had spent up to 50 hours on this one paper.
So I agree with Galena. I think if you've initially done research in the past, you're used to it, it's not going to be that challenging. However, the most challenging thing for me was time management because I did Pioneer at the same time I did the pre-college program in Colombia, and I had a hard time managing both. As I said previously, the 5 first meetings were easy as you didn't have that much to do. However, when it comes to actually writing the actual research paper, my professor asked for a lot, and as much as I appreciate it because it helped me to improve my writing, it was very unrealistic, especially for me who was doing 2 programs at the same time. But I think this is solely my experience. I don't think it's that challenging overall. I've talked to other people from the same program and they don't think it's that challenging. A lot of people from our school have done it as well. Try to take the program at a time where you don't have anything else in order to be able to get the best evaluation and do the best because they actually do publish the best research papers. Which program is more recognized by colleges or on college applications?
So firstly, it's very important to say that no research program will get you into college by itself. It's more what the product of that research program is. I think while Pioneer might be a more widely known name for a research program, CCIR is equally as recognized and it's equally as appreciated. One major difference I would say is that I think CCIR gives more support with actually publishing the paper because in Pioneer, the teachers or the mentors focus on who they view as the best writers or the best papers and work harder to publish those. Whereas in CCIR, everyone gets the opportunity to select their own journals and have advice on which journals their work would be able to be published in, which will help a lot more for being recognized by universities and on college applications.
About the publishing, she's right. They don't give more to the people whose research paper is the best. They only publish the best ones, so you need to work a lot. I don't think Pioneer
CCIR
CCIR have a difference in like helping you in your college applications. A good benefit and why I took Pioneer was because it also gives college credits. I think it's going to help you in college overall because it's college level writing. However, I don't think one or the other have a difference. Like if you have it, it's really good to have it. If you have Pioneer, it's the same as having CCIR.
If you had the chance to go back and take this program again, would you or would you not? And do you think the participation in it was worth it? For myself, I had a really big time struggling between choosing what program to do. And for the Pioneer cohort, I was really sad that I missed the summer term because that was like my initial choice. However, after doing research on CCIR, I found that it benefited me more because I like working within smaller groups of people. And I also would have preferred to have more classes with a actual teacher and a teaching assistant rather than doing 5 learning classes and then 5 with the teacher alone talking about my research paper, because through this type of way I got to also communicate with more students, and I also but I got the chance to learn about their research questions, their process, how they're progressing, and I got to compare myself with them in order to see whether I'm on the right track or not. Also, personally, the cost of CCIR was much better, and it was also much more accessible to me. I was awarded the Social Sciences Scholarship. However, even without this, it would have been of a much lesser cost than Pioneer, which was one of my initial things that was kind of stopping me from taking the Pioneer program in general.
If I could choose to go back and not take Pioneer, I wouldn't take it. Not because it was bad, more because I didn't use it in my college applications. I only applied to UK, and you don't give a list of your CV. The only way I could let the college know that I did Pioneer was because of my personal statement, in which I decided not to mention Pioneer. Overall, I think it was a very helpful experience regarding my writing. I got to write a college level essay. My professor, because she asked a lot, she taught us a lot as well. As Galena mentioned, the price is a very crucial thing to consider, considering that Pioneer is somewhere from 5,000 to 6,000 euros. However, it does give you a lot of opportunities. After I finished with my research program and got my evaluation, I was invited to be part of the student alumni program, in which I got to share my knowledge that I learned through Pioneer. To summarize, if you're going into the US for college, I would recommend the course. It teaches you a lot, it has benefits in college. It is very well known to the point where if you put it in your college essay, colleges know how hard it is. However, if you're applying to Europe, I don't think you should take it. It's not worth it. It takes so much time, especially for me that I was doing something way more important. I wouldn't say way more important, however, it was more important to me since that's what I wrote in my personal statement. I'm referring to the Columbia Pre-College Program for Architecture. So yeah, depending on your goals, Pioneer overall, it is a good research program. So that's it for the comparison. Now for a last piece of advice, I would say focus more on what you're learning from the research program rather than focusing on how you're gonna incorporate it into your college applications or your CV, because it is a learning experience and that's the most important thing.
For my piece of advice, I would say to not focus on the name of the program or its cost and whether it's more prestigious or not. I would say to focus on what you're trying to get out of it, and that should be the final paper, and focusing on making it as best as you can so that you can get support into actually publishing it and making it useful in your career.
So that's it, everyone.
Thank you for watching, and join us next weekend.